All right. Let me make sure this is going correctly. This is Gail of Gaia, and we have Harald Kautz-Vella on the line here, and we're going to be talking about planetary consciousness and where we are as opposed to where we were, say, about a year ago, and where we're headed, and what we can do to help that. And getting Harold's perspective on it is always very interesting. So Harald is a scientist, and he's well known around the planet for his research and so on. And so I'm very delighted to have you here, Harald. Welcome.
Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, whatever it is.
That's what I was going to say, and I forgot to say it. You never know where people are. They're all over the place, right?
Yeah. By now, it's around the planet.
Okay. So maybe you could address the concept of collective consciousness and where you think we're at, and what does that mean? Some people don't understand that whole entire concept.
Okay, in general, if you think about collective consciousness, everybody knows instincts. You know, just look at animals, and they are born, and they immediately know 95% of what they have to do to survive without being taught. They know how life works. And science, the mainstream science, never gave a clear answer to how does that work. And the non-mainstream science has, I think, more beautiful answers to how the collective parts of consciousness do work. And I love to visualize this as, if I take my heart chakra, it's like a torus. My entire light body flows like a torus, if it's healthy, through the heart chakra. And the torus, if you visualize it, it's got the outer shape. This is my aura. And it's got a kind of inner funnel. And these toroidal consciousness fields that I am, they are not so solely individual as we might think. We do believe so, or most people believe so, because we live in actually accidentally happened isolation from each other and from source and from nature, from the planet. But in the healthy form, there is another torus, a big one. It's all part of a fractal standing inside our consciousness torus. So there's a tiny little funnel that goes through our heart that has the shape and the size of the planet. And this is the planetary consciousness. So actually Gaia is inside our heart. And all we need to do is acknowledge her as what she is and fine-tune our senses to be able to be part of this entity. This is what all natural animals do. They are connected to the collective consciousness of the planet. And they can access all the knowledge stored in the planetary memory and consciousness. So they know what to do as part of a species. We disconnected from this. We stopped listening to this communicating internal funnel in our heart chakra because we completely disconnected from our heart chakra in a way, so we can't listen anymore. And inside this tiny funnel that is the planetary consciousness, there's another even tinier funnel that covers the entire creation. This is what we call source. Other people said God to it. But God is very religious, and religious is all meddled up with black magic nonsense. So we stopped using that term because it's connotating very wrongly. Source is nice in English. So there's another funnel we can listen to, and this is how source, the entity that created the entire universe as his internal sphere. And he also goes through our heart chakras, and as we can communicate with Gaia, we can communicate with Source. If it's healthy, we're all connected, and communication is on eye level. Once you once you start communicating with these entities, it's not like, oh God, please let me, I'm so poor. It doesn't go in panic. It's like these entities love to face other beings because we are more similar than different. We all use language. And so once you're connected, it's quite a respectful, loving. This is the basis. If there's no love, there's no communication, because this is the basic frequency of
Respect and
this
love
part.
for all life, correct?
Yeah. So this is basically the physics of the collective consciousness. And what we experience as a species at the moment is that we lived through the last years, or the first years, after a phase of complete disconnection from these aspects. And this disconnection was so complete that we even forgot that we lost something, that we established kind of some sorts of sick pride over the substitutes of a healthy life, like free will. Free will is something great. No, free will is a strange program that jumps in when I don't know what to do. If I don't have my instincts in the background, if I don't know what's right to do and what's wrong to do, if I don't know the ways of my species, if I don't feel the other ones with their needs and vulnerabilities, if I don't feel anything, of course, I'm in the void. And then something develops that we started to call free will. Just like jump in with a fantasy and do whatever you want to do, regardless if we hurt somebody or whether it's correct or incorrect in communication with the collective aspects of consciousness. This is what we experience as free will, and it's completely sick. It's a security program that jumps in the state of trauma. And of course, there is what in a healthy system can be looked at as the real thing, like the expression, the creative expression of our divine consciousness that is unique. Yeah? And if we express ourselves, this is also a form of free will, but it's not free will because it's coming from the heart. Will is coming from the stomach. It's coming out of the wrong part of the biodynamics of the body. And the expression of our true self comes through the heart chakra. And it has per definition nothing to do with will, because will is a sub-aspect of our bioenergetics. It's the power source. You would never give control to the battery. And this is what is happening with the will. So we lived through a phase of 25,500 years of complete disconnection and traumatization. And this phase now came to an end. If you look into, I don't like to this Bible talk because kind of the wrong people do it all the time, but if you look into the ancient scripts about expulsion from paradise and what was communicated in this context, there was a promise by Source that it will take a time where we are in this separation state, but it will be a limited time, and he will bring us back home. And this is what is happening in these years. The reason for the separation is not there anymore because humanity found a solution to it. And since this solution was found, that was about a little bit less than 2 years ago. Since this solution was found, the quarantine that was put on this planet to give us the possibility, space, and time to find this solution is over. So if you look into history, nobody really was in the position to either communicate with higher entities, or communication with what people in religions called their god actually was communication with the demonic realm, because they jumped into these positions. So there was hardly any communication to the internal, and there was no communication with other races, because they had this rule, law, decision that this planet needs to be left in peace, like kind of in a lab situation, to find a solution to the evil that tried to get hold of this planet. Because this is a repeating story. What we experience as duality happened to other planets before, and they all lost to the evil part of duality and self-destroyed. And this is kind of the repeating story. And in consciousness, in the material plane, it's about surviving and having a good life. On the consciousness level of life, it's all about learning lessons and developing. And if a lesson is learned by a single human representing his species, this lesson and the values derived from this can be uploaded into the collective consciousness, and then the task counts as solved. And humanity found kind of the antidote to duality. That was in July 2017. And since then, the higher spheres communicate differently with humanity, and also other races that had to step back and just watch the big theater and maybe pray for our survival and for good solutions on this planet, they're allowed to interfere again. And since then, in huge steps, the space has been cleared of the sources of duality. And the only problem we are still stuck in, kind of, is habits. Because when you live in the situation of duality, and also the duality becomes part of you, traumatization becomes your nature. Being ripped apart, depleted to fragments of your original soul mass. The rest is lost in traumata, reduced to the mental aspect of your being. This is the most striking and most painful aspect, that humanity completely lost the real heart connection. This is something you can only understand when you go through the healing process and you feel the revival of your heart chakra. Then you will be able to say, fully self-confident, I haven't had that a single second of my life before. This is completely new. And you will be able to say, nobody I know ever had that quality before. So it's possible now to revive the energetics of the heart chakra. And it needs steps to get there, because it needs things like balancing the mental and the emotional body. If you ask people about these issues, they will see somebody that is very emotional and good intended. And he will say, oh, what a heartful person. But it's not. It's a living emotional body plus a mind or a mental body with good intentions. It doesn't mean that this human or being has an active heart chakra. So it needs the balancing between the mental and the emotional, and then it needs all the processes that allows the true self to fully incarnate in the heart chakra, which means get rid of all habits that are not coming from yourself. Like, it's enough to have a habit you learned from your mother. Let's say your mother expressed her appreciation for the family through cooking, and you just copy pasted this habit into your life. This is enough to block the awakening of your heart, because it's something that doesn't come from you. It's a copy-pasted habit that sits like something in the pipe that is blocking the pipe, not giving your true self expression, because you already express the life of your mother through your day consciousness. Just as an example, it's not, I'm not reading anything.
Is that like subconscious
So
programming? Would you call that?
Yeah, you can call it subconscious programming, but nobody programmed us. We program ourselves. You know, when you're not connected, when you don't have the correct instinct, as long as it's instinctive, it's coming through the heart. If you basically display abilities of your species, it will never come in the way to block the expression of your true self, because you are human and it goes along with being human. You start to look for other templates for behavior, and you find those templates in the marriage of your parents, and you copy their behavior. It's nothing evil. It's just happening in the state of being separated. If you don't have access to the correct source, you look for other templates, or you find templates in Hollywood. The entire myth of romantic love is such a template that we copy paste into our life, but it's never ever the wish of the true self to do something like this. It's just, yeah, it's a template. We swallow and then try to make it rule our life, and it feels correct to do so, but it's not natural to behave. So if we go to the point of reviving the heart vine, and non-new templates need to be overcome, tended and emotional, but you will never experience love coming from your true self through your heart chakra, filling your life, opening your spirit, to live the original human nature. Mm-hmm. And these are the processes we are now facing at the moment on the possibilities of personal spiritual development that are actually supported by the possibilities that you can find in the collective consciousness. This is how it works, like with 100 apes from Rupert Sheldrake. One human does it first, finding a path to have this heart opening and reconquering true human nature. Then you have a few followers, normally from the direct environment of the one. And at the moment you have 100 humans that went through the process, suddenly the possibility is available to everyone, just by being derived from that collective consciousness. And then it's very easy to jump into this development and to make it happen in your life. So these are possibilities. Do you know the story of the 100 monkeys of Sheldrake?
Yeah, the 100th monkey syndrome.
Maybe for the audience, Sheldrake was actually experimenting on collective aspects of consciousness. And he found an island in Japan, or a group of islands with apes living there. Mm-hmm. And he observed that one young ape suddenly started to take the potatoes they had as general meal. And instead of just eating them together with the soil still attached to it, he went to the next little river and washed his potato before, and then he had one without soil. And then his brothers started to copy his behavior. His aunt and his uncle and his parents couldn't. They were unable to learn how, just from his generation, his friends, his family of the same generation, then his friends. And then the habit started to spread on one island. And after 100 monkeys had learned to wash their potatoes, from now to now, all apes on all islands without any contact to each other jumped into this habit and instinctively knew how to wash potatoes. So an individual conquers, then he's teaching his friends and neighbors and his closest family. And when you reach this critical number of 100, it makes a quantum jump on the next higher level of the fractal that consciousness is. And the ability is downloadable to every single member of the species. Whether he had contact or not, it doesn't matter anymore. This is how it works. And this is scientifically, in a way, proven. And this is what we are heading to now, what we are facing. It's just a time of awakening from our collective amnesia of our state of traumatization. And for the first ones who went through the process, it was quite a hard process, but it's kind of spread by now. So it's getting easier and easier and easier to join into developments.
So the more people or the more monkeys. That, when we get to the 100th monkey, I mean, we could compare ourselves to the same thing. As people start to awaken, more and more people awaken. It goes into the collective and expands.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to compare ourselves to monkeys. I always love this little story about the monkeys and the money. Yeah? The scientists tried to teach the monkeys to use money, just to check if they're intelligent enough to manage to play this game. And it took 2 or 3 weeks only, and the monkeys used money. And it took another couple of weeks, and the girls started to prostitute, and the boys in the ape family started to steal and beat each other up to
what money does?
Get hold of the money. And then the scientists tried to cancel the experiment because they saw these apes going into complete social self-destruction. But they were completely unable to get the money back from them, because when they just got close to it, they completely freaked out and started to beat up the science, steal my money. And this is what happened to us collectively. We are completely stuck in a gaming addiction. And like the apes, the monkeys forgot that this used to be a game at the beginning.
It's a paper with ink on it, right? And we think it's worth a whole lot because everybody believes it, and that's what we're into.
Yeah.
I don't know how we
get if you are out of
because it's my understanding in other planetary systems that it's outlawed. There's no such thing as money because it's a form. It's a way to control people, obviously.
Yeah, it's so funny when you're out of this, when you manage to leave the gaming addiction behind and you're back into, it's another possibility that grows to go back into the internal state of abundance. It's also a state of your heart in a way. Based on or introduced by belief system. There's not enough. I need to grab and hold everything to be able to survive tomorrow, whether I need it or not. Or you can just go into this trusting feeling of there's abundance, there's always going to be enough for everybody. I do not need to cure my resources. And when you go into this feeling of abundance, you manifest abundance around you. If you go into scarcity, you manifest scarcity around you. And people starve themselves to death by manifesting scarcity.
Yeah, they have
completely
never
stupid.
Taught anything about how to go about manifesting anything or about how negative emotions interfere with manifesting anything, appreciable. And it seems like we've been disconnected from nature, and I think that's where we lose some of that heart chakra connection.
We're disconnected from anything. Another thing that comes back in huge steps, I came across it for the first time when I met the first girl doing animal communication. It was back in 2012 in Norway. And she just had an education, and she was talking to animals, mainly to pets, dogs, cats. When the owners had any problem with the animal, she used to come and talk to it, and then translate to the owner that couldn't understand his own pet what the pet meant, needed, wanted, what it was upset with. And just one story caught my emotional attention. She said there was a dog that one morning just ran away. He was used to run free, but he ran into a forest and jumped down a cliff 80 meters and died. And the dog had been treated by her before, so they called her up, asking her whether she can communicate with the spirit of the dog, to ask the dog why he jumped off the cliff. And she said, okay, I can try. And she communicated with a dead dog, with the spirit of the dog. And the dog said, actually, the little boy of the family was suicidal. And he was about to commit suicide on the next day. And I took the initiative and jumped from the cliff to make the motive, the energetics of suicide visible to everyone, to save the life of the child. This is the level of intelligence animals are at. And then the little boy of the family completely burst out in tears. And it turned out it was true. He had for weeks planned to commit suicide on that day. And the dog saved his life by that. This is kind of the level animals are at. They are 100 times more intelligent than us. And they communicate on, we find the correct word for that, on a visual level, on the level of meaning. Meaning is something that comes in form and signature. And if I think about the meaning of something, I visualize the meaning within me. And somebody who has the ability to telepathically communicate with me can read the meaning. And you can assemble full sentences by assembling meaning to meaning to meaning to meaning, grammatical meaning to descriptive meaning of things. And this was the way humanity communicated before this biblical event of the building of the Tower of Babylon.
Telepathy.
And yes, just, and it didn't matter what dialect they were talking, because the talking was only giving sound to things to make it appear more lively. The internal communication was on that mental plane of meanings. And this is what these animal communicators learn to do with animals, because they still do it. They still communicate on that level. So if you're educated, you can have a full-scale conversation with any animal you want to talk to. And it will make sense, and it will have no language. You can talk to a dog in Portugal like you can talk to a dog in Alaska. There are no languages on the meaning level.
You talk with
And
pictures in your head, basically.
Yes, and it's working beautifully, and it's so funny how surprised animals are when they realize that we do answer and understand. It's so funny. You face an animal and it goes like, wow, you talk. Because all the talking sounds like nothing for them, because there are no meanings on the readable, or maybe they even can read us, but they mostly don't expect us to be able to listen because we're completely numb to their conversations.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that comes back in huge steps. I slowly, I was invited to a conference to talk on one topic, and it was with veterinary doctors, the conference, medical conference, and I thought about carefully introducing the option of doing animal communication in treatments. And the girl that invited me there said, "Oh, no, you don't need to introduce it. That half of the veterinaries attending the conference already work with full-scale animal communication because it's absolutely superior." And this is kind of how it works when human abilities, are beyond the 100 apes, 100 monkeys,
Mm-hmm.
and it becomes easily accessible to everybody. Then suddenly, oops, it becomes hip to do so, and it's nothing special anymore.
I think we have a lot to learn from animals.
Definitely. The most important thing is to again learn what love is. Because we have so many things that we think that this is love, especially self-love, because self-love is the basis for love. If you don't carry this vibration within yourself for yourself, you can't share it with others. So this is kind of the first step. And if I just think about all the misunderstandings and weird ideas what self-love is, starting from undernourished, low energetic humans, when you're completely traumatized, you don't have access to source, you don't have access to internal energy. You're doomed and you have to harvest energy from. Then self-love might be getting close, giving yourself the space to get close to other people that have higher energetics, to be able to live a parasitic life, to feed from them. This is kind of the lowest state of what self-love can be, to give yourself the awareness and the willing act to position yourself in a place where you can be fed and nourished. But it has nothing to do with love. Nothing. It's just a parasitic energetic state of hunger and scarcity where you give yourself the opportunity on the cost of others to survive.
Mm-hmm.
This is the worst thing mistaken for self-love.
I think
then if you go into relationship, yes? If you go into relationships, when people fall in love with each other, mainly it's the emotional bodies triggering each other to heal traumata. If one has this lively southerner spirit of very aggressive emotionality, and the other one has complete blocked emotions, this is a perfect match. And then you start to trigger each other because of the emotional bodies realize, oh, the other one has something I don't. The basis for romantic love, in a way. It has to do a lot with self-healing and healing in relationships, of healing of traumas. But it has nothing to do with love. It has to do with attraction, yes, but not with love. People go there and they say, I love her so much. No, it's not love. So so many
Not love
things
is
where,
lost, right?
we think we've got it, but it's something completely else.
Yeah. Well, I think you're really right about the self-love thing. And one of the reasons why we're in such a dilemma in that regard is largely from religions, because, you know, you're a sinner and you're this and you're that. And,
Mm.
and I think that, you know, I received a lot of that as a child through parochial schools and stuff like that. And it really has an effect. It's like you're almost being conceited if you love yourself, which is crazy. You have to think enough of yourself to care for yourself. Um, I don't know. It's just one of those things that I think we've been misled, and we need to get that back. That self-love, like you said. How can you love someone else if you don't love yourself?
Mm. It's the problem is the thing with the religion. It's systemic, and it's not convenient to talk truth because many people are stuck in their belief and they take things spoken about their belief personal because they're so identified, and then it's getting painful to press those buttons.
Yeah.
But what I try to do in this issue is if you know about the early beginnings of all black magic cults, it's always about some people, tribes, whatever, getting in contact with a consciousness that demands blood and fire sacrifice. This is the pattern you find all over the planet. You find it with the Mayas, with the Aztecs, you find it in the biblical realm, you find it in Asia, you find it on every single tiniest island of this planet.
Right.
An entity calling itself a god, demanding blood and fire sacrifice. And this it has nothing to do with love. Blood and fire sacrifice is killing an animal to extract the life force, to make it accessible to the entity that is demanding it. And this has nothing to do with God. These are fallen entities. These are entities completely disconnected from source due to their own traumatization. Period. It can't be anything else. Source, if you have a divine idea of a God, it's just overwhelming in love and energy. It doesn't need to order the killing of animals to survive.
It's
And once you
insanity.
get kind of this point very clear, look at the beginnings of our world religions. What did God ask Abraham to do? Slaughter your own son. And
And
Abraham was obeying, and then just before he stick his knife into his own son, this nasty God said, no, you can leave your son alive, but give me a goat instead. And it's kind of sold as a big test of loyalty that Abraham had to pass. No, this is not God. This is not source. This is not divine. This is the other side of duality that demands these things. And from there, all world religions derived. And then you could say, okay, but the belief of people turned it into something beautiful and good and Christ. And what did the church do? Fire sacrifice 1 million innocent women burned to death in Europe. There you can say for sure this entity is still in power. Later, okay, let's have the Spanish people go to South America, killing how many tribesmen and very peaceful tribes and cult sacrifice. This is systemic. And whoever has something beautiful in his religion can be 100% sure that this beauty comes out of himself, but never out of the institution. Never, ever. Maybe he shares this beauty with other people attending the same church or synagogue or mosque. And they should preserve this beauty among each other and cancel the entire rest. And it's painful because it is giving people self-confidence to be part of a group. But who needs this? Be confident in yourself, not in the institution. And you will have a much better life. Go into God, never, source can never be found in the outside. This is the biggest lie of church. 100% disconnecting us from source, telling us to look for the God outside of us. No, it's the internal funnel of our heart chakra. We find him inside of us, not outside of us. And whoever is telling you the opposite tries to make sure that you never ever communicate with the right entity, because outside there you just find the other side of duality. You find those demons and Satan and whatever came here attacking the planet to run it, drive it into self-destruction. Mm-hmm. So actually the setup is very easy to understand once you cancel the basic ideas that the wrong life prospers on. Then everything makes a lot of sense and it's easy to maneuver through it. But it can be painful to let go of anchors people used
Yes,
to
I think a lot of times religions are a crutch for people, something to, lean on when, rather than leaning on themselves is what it boils down to. Because our strength comes from within, not without.
Yes.
But I always refer to them as imposter gods that, require worship and all this other special stuff for, in order to get some degree of favor or something like that. It's sad. Why would a god be a jealous god too? None of that makes any sense when you really think about it. The Creator never demanded worship. I mean, it's my belief we're supposed to be co-creators with Source and respect all life and live accordingly. Hard to do in the world of commerce. That's why we belong in nature, I think. But
yeah, nature is one part. I mean, this the game of the funnels. Gaia comes first when you go inside and Source second. In the hierarchy, of course, Source is the higher hierarchy, the planetary consciousness, the intermediate one, and we are the third level then as entities. But this is how you get access through your own heart.
People have become disconnected from their heart in a lot of ways. So many, there's videos, there's games, there's all kinds of things, movies to desensitize us to things that we actually should be sensitive to. Like, blood sacrifice and things like that. It's just absolutely appalling. It seems like a lot of things are being exposed now to people if they're willing to believe that actually goes on. That seems to be part of the problem.
Exposing it is not even the crucial point. Most of the things that are actually evil are obvious, completely obvious, but they are mislabeled. For example, our habit to kill animals to feed on them comes from the black magic cults. It's part of the fire and blood sacrifice. It's not our true nature. If you look at the length of our intestines, humans are vegetarians. We can digest meat before we starve, but we shouldn't actually. It's killing us quite quickly. Vegetarians live longer. The entire microbes in the intestines completely go berserk, and it starts to rot instead of being digested if we eat meat. So we're not made for this. And still, it became part of the daily life, and the barbecues we enjoy are actually blood and fire sacrifice cults that we got to just do as a fun part of our after work. And when you look at those, comes absolutely up in my life when I spent a couple of weeks on the countryside living a healthy vegetarian life, and then I was excited to go for a visit in Berlin, and needed to go a special place. I ended up in the Arab African quarter in Berlin, Wedding, where you have this street and you've got one kebab shop after another, and they all have these grill things next to the window, and the entire street was smelling of burned meat, and the people were just sitting in front of these little tiny shops, scoffing these dead bodies into them. And I could completely remember myself being there before in this type of setups, enjoying the smell as something yummy, and looking at the cult part as something that is just nutrition, like you need to eat something good. And but the way I perceived it on that day was in the true quality. I literally could see the black magic cult in it. Wow. And I could see also the demons feeding on that. And I could see the demons in the eyes of those whom they possessed. And I really felt like being dropped into a horror movie. Wow. And it was like, how could you live through that all your life without feeling the quality of it? And the quality suddenly became visible just because I was free of the torture energy, because I didn't scoff tortured meat for ages. So my system was cleaned. I was not in this torture resonance that you have when you eat tortured animals, and all farm animals are tortured a lifetime till they get killed in a cruel way. So they carry this energy. And that kind of was the first moment, and by now it's in a way when I go to a supermarket and I don't take care where I step, where I walk to, and suddenly I've got this display of tortured meat in my back, and
it
my
smells
cells connect to it. Yeah, the smell, okay, they ventilate these things. You don't smell it in German supermarkets. It's not...
I can smell it in here.
Maybe it's typical German, but the communication works on cellular level. Your cells of your body go in resonance with the tortured cells of the dead animals. And the entire torture energy creeps into your system. And I remember the first time I did not consciously prepare for the experience, it just kicked me out of my shoes and I collapsed. My knees went boof from this hit of torture energy into my system. And these are things you only perceive when your system is completely clean of that energy. Now recently, somebody knocked on our door. He was born next village, and he said, I have to move out of my parents' home. He tried to survive in the cities, and it was all too cruel for him. He was a full-scale vegan for years, and he couldn't stand the energies in the city anymore. So he was fleeing the city, going back home, and he said, I can't stay with my family. just because of the torture energy, because they eat meat. And it's in every daily expression, the way they talk to each other, the way they emotionally interact. It's all full of pain and torture. And this is how they deal with each other. And he can't take it anymore. And he just applied for a room, just to move not too far away from his village, but definitely out of this torture setup. And these are normal people. The farmer is even halfway to ecological farming. He's not a bad guy, but energetically, it's what it is. And all it needs is to get clear from this for a while to be able to read and perceive the quality everybody else is still stuck in. And it's worth it. The only comment I have to share, if you go vegan or vegetarian, don't do just that. Also go into ecologically grown food, because the supermarket quality doesn't contain any nutrients. So if you eat vegetables from the supermarket, you might as well eat nothing, because it's not nurturing your body. You will starve on that. So if you eat ecologically grown food and no meat, everybody should be fine, unless you have Eskimo ancestors and extremely short internal intestines. There are differences with humans. Some have a very short, I think one of the intestines is too short to digest vegetables. So there are some humans who have this in the genetics, but most of us should easily survive the attempt to realize what we are actually doing on our torture planet. And we are doing this to our planet.
I definitely follow a plant-based diet myself. Try to do mostly fruit, and then vegan for the most part. But sometimes you run into places where you have a dish and it's got something in it that's not, like the milk or what have you. But anyway, it seems the longer you're away from it too, the more you have empathy for the animals that go through the torture, like you say, of factory farms and things of that nature. But at the same time, when you try to, if you talk to some people, they become very offended, I'm not going to give up my meat, kind of thing. And that's like,
Yeah. It's interesting because you just displayed exactly the aggression they have in them.
Yeah, that's true.
This is not the reason. This is the result of the problem. This aggression is what meat does with you. And now ask yourself, do you really want to eat something that turns you into a bastard? An evil-minded, aggressive asshole? Is this what you want to have on your daily plate? Yeah, I would prefer something that turns you into a loving being. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a decision you can make. It's easy. Actually, it's very easy. From that standpoint, it's very easy to make the right decision.
Yeah.
If you know that reaction, I want my meat, then you know what it does with you.
Yeah. I had somebody say to me once, I never eat anything that has eyes that can look at me.
Yeah. My girlfriend has a similar one. I don't eat anything with a face.
That does, that kind of hits home, you look at
It
even
strikes emotionally.
fish, look at fish eyes. And I was just saw an aquarium not long ago, and I was looking at the fish eyes, and they have eyes too. But
Yeah. Don't look like the most intelligent beings, but still, they're beings.
Yeah. But I also recall pictures of cattle going up the cattle ramp, for slaughter and tears running down their eyes, literally. I mean, that's torture. That's it's almost like
They know what's happening. They know. Brings me back to this lady in Norway that did the animal communication. We had a beautiful communication with the collective consciousness of the polar bears in northern Norway. There was like 2-3 pages typed because they had a message to humanity. They said disbalances need to be allowed to express themselves. So they had a full understanding about the bad condition humanity is in at the moment, because it's an intermediate step to development. Fully aware of that, just again to just highlight the intelligence. Also said to openly share our suffering with humans is for the moment the purest possibility of communication between us and them. So they are consciously going into the slaughterhouse.
they know what's happening.
Patiently waiting for us to come back to senses, to realize what we do with them, because suffering is the purest way of communication they can access for this moment. And that one, they earned quite a bit of respect from my end as to wisdom, physics embedded in this text, like explaining how the collective consciousness fields work, that it was different when we had just had one continent, Pangea, on planet Earth, that the collective consciousness worked differently, but now where the continent is split into parts, the salt water is basically working like a telephone line, transmitting the consciousness field from one continent to another to close the gap in between the different. It's all in their knowledge and awareness. These things work. Amazing, amazing wisdom.
Interesting. Wow. Well, on that note, it's really quite a challenge to make people aware of the suffering that goes on in factory farms for animals. People are so removed from that they don't even realize what goes on. I know that there's a reason why they don't call Kentucky Fried Chicken anymore. They call it KFC, and it's because they've genetically modified the animals so much that they're not technically chickens. And that's pretty appalling when you think about it.
But to get to the awareness of what's happening is actually easy. If you're still eating meat, just take the opportunity with the next meal you take and just affirm, go into your heart if you can do so. Just focus your internal center into the middle of your chest and affirm to the animal spirit that is his body is lying on your plate. Just say, I feel the suffering of your life. Just affirm it. And normally if you affirm something in your heart chakra, it immediately happens. Most of the people still have this ability. And then you will be simply overwhelmed by what this animal went through. It's nothing, it's not spooky, it's not, it's just compassion. Simple thing, every human should be in 24/7 compassion. And because we lost compassion, it's still possible to call it back to existence per affirmation. And normally it starts like, okay, I need to discipline myself to remember myself, or to decide to feel what's happening around me. Because if I don't decide this now, and if I don't focus on my internal setup of being heart-centered, I again don't feel anything. This is where it starts. You take the decision to be willing and wanting to feel what is around you. And when you affirm this, you come back to this ability of compassion, and then you feel what's around you. And from there, you can move on to unconditional compassion. And this starts to get really painful, because then you take a bath in the pain we cause to this planet 24/7. Then you can't block things out anymore if you manage to get there. And then finally you are there where the entire animaldom, all the kingdoms, all the animals, they are 24/7 in this pain of the collective. If you kill a fish in your kitchen, the plant next room goes into dire straits. You can measure the electromagnetic impulse of a plant. And they did that in the lab. If you kill a fish, and it was not a fish, it was throwing crabs into boiling water. And the plant next door freaked out in pain. This is how our planet lives. This is what he goes through.
Wow.
And when you re-educate yourself to feel, you are exactly there. You exactly get into the state where all these plants and animals are. And plants are not less intelligent than animals. They also think you can talk to them on the picture level. And they have a completely different type of wisdom to share. But still, you can have a lively communication with a plant. If you know how to, if you go to a huge tree and you just tell him, "You are so beautiful." It's so funny to get the feedback from the tree, because the first thing you will realize is that he was not regarded as living by a human for ages. And he will be surprised that you talk to him.
Uh-huh.
And then you get your answers. And it does make sense. One beautiful little story. Before I met my now girlfriend, she was trying to flee from Berlin, and she had an opportunity to go somewhere in the direction of southern Germany. And she was staying with the friends she wanted to move to, and they went to a very old forest with trees this size. And she was leaning to a tree, and she is into communication with all living beings also. So she was talking to that tree, and she asked him whether he thinks it's a good idea for her to move here. And the tree said, no, you're not moving here. Stay a little bit longer in Berlin, and there will be a man coming, and he will take you to his house to the north. This is what the tree said. And then she said, okay, then I'm going to stay in Berlin. And then I came. And after 3 weeks, she decided to move to my place that was north of Berlin. So the tree already knew everything. Another woman I used to know, she
That's
She
amazing.
leaned to a tree. And when she leaned to the tree, suddenly her entire system was full of the noise of chainsaws. And she got affrighted and left the forest. And then she thought about it a second time next day and decided to go there again to see if this effect was just on that day or if it's going to be again when she leans to the tree. But the forest was gone. It was cut down same day. They knew they were going to be cut down, and they were in panic and in pain. And they shared this with her, crying for her because they can't run away.
Oh my
This is
God.
where we live. It's a beautiful planet. It's like what's the name of this film with the big blue aliens? Um,
Wow.
forgot.
No,
Do
they
you
do
know
say,
which film I mean?
go ahead.
Do you know that film where they show a different planet with huge blue humanoids that live in harmony with nature, and the entire nature is shining in different colors? Avatar. The way the Avatar world is shown
I
of
remember
this
that, yes.
planet. This is our reality. It's not a single point where it was not accurate. Just that we don't see the biophotons anymore, and that we don't feel things anymore. And it's so beautifully made in this film how these worlds collide: the world of compassion with the world of non-compassion. I remember one scene where he's behaving stupid in the forest, and the blue girl he's going to marry needs to kill an animal to save his life. And he says, "Thank you." And she slaps his face. And she says, "You don't thank for that. I had to kill to save you." This is sad only. This is beautifully displayed, actually, how we misbehave in paradise because we forgot to regard it as what it is. We just declared everything to be dead matter and behave like an axe.
Don't respect all life,
Yeah,
basically. And that's,
yeah, but that's I. Let's. It's. I don't. The energy is a bit sticky. Let's go to the solution part more,
that sounds
because
like a good idea.
it doesn't help to stare at our ugliness. It helps to become a bit more beautiful. And yeah, this is what it needs, actually.
Solutions are always important. You don't want to just talk about negative things and not have something positive to put out there for people to raise their vibration with. Um,
Okay, good news. Good news. The source of duality is gone since July 2017. The
who's gone?
source of duality, the entity that church used to call Satan, the demiurge, he's
Okay.
gone. So there's no evil anymore. There's just bad habits.
Okay. The
So
experiment of
there's
evil has
nothing.
been removed, basically, is what I'm another
Yeah.
way I've heard it put.
So there's nothing to be scared of anymore. Last year, I think August, the entity that administered the dark magic on this planet. This is a bit, normally I'm extremely conservative in trusting online sources. But there was one beautiful channeling. I also hardly trust channelings, but there was one channeling with some fleet commander of positive aliens.
Oh, okay. Not Ashtar.
That no, another one.
Okay, I didn't think so. Okay.
I can't remember the name right now, but if it's supposed to be mentioned, it will come in a minute. And he kind of gave a brief history of humanity and of what is happening or has been happening on the planet, and was absolutely, according to my knowledge and my research, everything was on the spot accurate. So I kind of got quite interested. And then he said a couple of days ago something happened that opened a complete new set of positive timelines for humanity, to fit some sort of spiritual trap. And an entity he called the Red Vampire stepped into this trap and died on the spot. The Red Vampire actually is one of the few, according to this channeling, one of the few surviving Anunnaki. So an entity that lives here since thousands of years, lives as a vampire, actually what all these hidden elites try to mimic and copy paste into their lives. You know, when Hillary Clinton is getting her cannibal disease, and you know she's drinking human blood, this is what they try to do to become immortal by vampiric techniques. So this is an entity that is doing this in a perfect way since thousands of years, and he didn't expect to be removed as kind of on the brink of commanding World War III that activated this trap. And he died on the spot. And he was so afraid of being replaced by another evil entity that he did not share his magic with anyone else. So he was kind of the only entity on this planet that could completely control all levels of black magic. And I tried to remote view some parts of this story to get more details, and to me it appeared like that there was a sort of colored magic, while the magic that is used within the bloodlines is gray and black and white. It's kind of a very reduced, it feels like a very reduced set of techniques that is only there to administer the internal processes of a hierarchy, like controlling people. The entire control idea is actually done within the bloodlines with this black and white magic, while the ability for colored magic was just practiced and understood and known by one entity. And because he died, suddenly the entire possibility of applying this type of magic got lost. And I'm not sure how much of this is true. You know, I read a lot. I remember things I read as possible truths, but things that I don't get like as a first-hand information, I always try to remember and regard as second-hand information. So this second-hand information, plus it's channeled, so it's a bit blurry in a way. I just keep it in mind as a possibility, and then I wait for things to confirm that something of that quality might have happened. And what you see in politics actually is that indeed the centralized cabal, the power in the background that was ruling everything from one individualized evil standpoint, really seems to be gone, because all these power structures, they still apply black magic techniques, but they're split into fractions. Suddenly you have the Gnostic Illuminati fighting the Cabal, which is the Russian branch of um, the dark side. So things seem to have fallen apart, and now you've got the black and white magic struggle for the #1 position. And they started to dissemble each other. So it's not like a unified dark realm controlling humanity, but fractions of the dark realm standing against each other, destroying each other.
Yeah,
Which
that's
is
true.
it's not beautiful, because it's still bloodshed, and you have what military sources call collateral damage every now and then. So it's nothing to celebrate as itself, but at least humanity has no need to fight those evil characters anymore, because they're fighting each other very successfully at the moment.
Right, let them destroy
So we can
themselves.
just it makes it easier to focus on your own healing and stay in this observing position, and manifesting position, because whatever is inside of you manifests on the outside. We are the projector, the world is the screen, we are the movie, our history is what we project into reality per manifestation. So um, this is kind of the higher rule of creation, that we manifest our reality. So if we decide to go to war against bloodlines that are regarded as evil in our eyes, what we manifest is war. If we just manifest self-healing and heal ourselves, then the world we live in will heal with us, without the need to do anything. Nothing needs to be done in the outside. Everything needs to be done in the inside. This is why it's so important to get the torture energy out of us, because as long as the torture energy of the animals we eat is in us, the torture is in the world. This is how the black magic mechanisms work. This is why they demanded blood and fire sacrifice from us. This is why they demanded us to eat the animals we torture and kill, until it became a habit and our second nature. Because the torture is in us, we as the manifesting entities manifest a tortured world very successfully, as we can see. Yeah? This is still parts of the colorful magic. This is the knowledge, kind of the higher black magic knowledge, just as one example how it works. It has nothing to do with control grids in a way. It's not a voodoo thing.
And now we're dealing largely with what's left over from bad habits. Like you said, bad habits.
Yes. Yeah, bad habits, very bad habits, evil habits.
And people, by
And even,
working on themselves, will actually improve the entire whole. So wouldn't that be basically our message, is working on yourself within?
yeah, this is what needs to be done now. Work on yourself. And the path is very simple, actually. First, just get a map of a healthy human that has the mental body, the emotional body. The mental is binary, quadro. The emotional is in 60-degree angles. And the heart is like the rose of a 12 structure that integrates the binary and the trinary. And control should be in the heart. And then the mental and the emotional become dependent substructures of the true being that is expressing itself as a divine aspect through our heart chakra. Completely not controlling, but having the mental and the emotional as depending substructures. What we do, this is kind of the beauty of what we want to achieve. If you look at what we have now, it's either a complete traumatization that left over the mental only, all these scientists
I'm
that
glad you
don't
said that.
feel anything. Yeah. This is the worst state. This is pure satanic consciousness. Satan was exactly at that point, to be lost in being mental only. The rest of this entity was completely traumatized, screaming for the restaging of his drama that killed him as a being, that traumatized him as a being, which is planetary self-destruction. This is why every planet he goes to goes through the restaging of planetary self-destruction. This is what we call evil. Yeah? So you've got all these psychopaths that are mental only, highly intelligent. And it doesn't matter whether you are good intended or evil intended. If you're a mental only, you're a psychopath. You don't need to slaughter innocent children and women to be a psychopath. You can be an artist that is completely making conceptual art that is completely mental, like conceptual on the word level, on the sentence, grammar, language level. That
Mm-hmm.
makes you laugh because the piece of art you create. Like I had somebody among my friends. He took from the church clock. There's a kind of round paper, the numbers 1 to 12, with a little hole in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
and he had 2,000 of these papers, putting on a metal pipe, sticking both ends of the piece of art into a wall. And then he had a little paper underneath saying, take an hour of time for yourself. Asking the people to take one of these hours as a paper. And then they realize if you tear it out, then the hour is ripped to bits and pieces. There's no way to take the hour with you without destroying it, which is how life is. If you take time for something, this time is gone. You lived its past. This is kind of conceptual, beautiful man, beautiful art, made me laugh, good friend of mine. But this is mental. It's as mental as killing women and children.
Hmm.
Mental just means mental only. No access to emotions.
Some seems to think that's the best way to be, and obviously it's not.
Yeah, it's projected as our goal of development when we are not animal anymore, when our culture is coming to its highest point of evolution, then we will be these only intelligent. And it's kind of the end point of a path of complete degradation. Limiting a 12-star to a 2-star can't make a 12-star better. Sorry. It's complete depletion. And when you experience heart consciousness, the complexity of it, logic is a joke. It doesn't lead anywhere.
It's not logic that'll save mankind. It's emotion.
It's logic that brought mankind to on the brink of self-destruction. And you can't solve a problem with a mindset that created the problem. Impossible. It was Einstein, I think, who said that.
Now that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the entire mindset of mankind needs to be readjusted.
To be put in place again. There's nothing about good reasoning that is beautiful, but the reasoning needs to be embedded in hard decisions. It needs to be accomplished with emotional access to things that gives you the possibility of empathy and compassion. If you don't, you can make decisions that sound nice within your family, and if you don't feel that your children are upset with your decision, you just violate their lives. This is why compassion is so important, to directly feel everything that is felt in your environment. And it's a natural state. It's nothing supernatural. We have these mentalists on stages that are just a little bit still natural and have completely natural and normal abilities. And we celebrate them as freaks, freaks of nature that have the ability to read the mind of somebody else. For me, it's sometimes the opposite. I go to Berlin and I just go like, could I please stop reading all these minds, because all I read is madness. Through the street, and you've got this man who just looks at every other man, and in his mind it goes like, if he should say something nasty, I would beat him up. And then his eyes turn to the next man approaching him. And if he should get too close to me, I would punch him into the face. And it's like an ego restoring loop going in the brain, in circles, just feeding the ego with a little bit energy that comes from feeling superior. And he doesn't even realize that it's like a
Loop.
Vinyl record that is jumping, always in the same line. And then I said, oh, what a poor life, Might be a nice man, but the life he's living is just a nightmare. And then after him, there comes the girl with a mini skirt and quite nice legs. And she goes like, did he see my legs? Did he like my legs? Oh, this one. Did he see my legs? Oh, you apparently like my legs. And you come across the next vinyl record that is stuck in one loop, feeding her ego. And this is what is keeping people occupied in their soul, day in, day out, just feeding their ego. And what is ego? Ego is just a composite consciousness between mental and emotional field, or emotional body. Bypassing, leaving out the heart consciousness, because the heart never is stupid enough to reduce life to these energy vampirism games that you play when you feed your ego. But this is what you can observe on the streets of Berlin, day in, day out. And then I say, oh, maybe it's not a good idea to be able to just be in compassion with everyone, because it's no fun at the moment to be in compassion, because nothing exciting is happening. All you get is very, very stuck, sad stories where you can share one loop and then you have to jump out because it's unbelievable what's happening. I mean, for all the audience, check your loops. I did that. I just went into just for myself for a month, didn't see anybody, didn't listen to music, didn't read books, didn't watch telly, didn't write, didn't switch on the computer. I just sat down, didn't eat, and observed myself to see what loops I'm stuck in. Because when you're alone with yourself, there's nothing to distract you. You can observe and analyze the loops. And then when you're on the loop, you try to find the reason, am I stuck in this loop? And when you find the reason, definitely you find something that can be fixed.
What did you do?
This is,
Okay, you didn't watch you didn't listen to the radio, you didn't watch TV, you didn't read a book, you didn't
No,
do anything. You fasted. You didn't eat either
I've
during this time.
I I
And
I did dry fasting for I don't remember exactly 5 days, and water
wow.
fasting for 17 days. And then before my body could get hurt, I switched to raw vegan diet for the rest of the month. I think it was 26 days retreat altogether. Just observing my own loops, just observing my day consciousness to understand how it works and to get rid of everything that is not divine in it. This means working on yourself. This is, in a way, an act of self-love. Fix your own system, because what we experience as ourselves is our day consciousness. It's not our true self. It's not the divine aspect that is supposed to be incarnated in this body. It's just a crossover mix of all sorts of shitty things. It's all the demons you're identified with. They are part of the day consciousness. All the mal-entanglements of isolated aspects, like when mental body and emotional body merge together to form an ego without the heart in the middle. It's not supposed to be there, but it is our day consciousness. So it takes some internal administration to bring things back into order, to get all the shit sorted that is in a complete mess inside. And this self-healing ends when there's only one voice left. Whenever you have aspects of yourself struggling with each other, you can for sure say something is not right. Whenever something appears in your system that is not in the heart, it's not right. It's broken. Like even simple, beautiful things like I always tried to play in a band, but I had such a bad feeling for rhythm that I messed up everything. So at a certain point, being 17, 18, I just gave up on making music with other people. And I had the music always in a defined spot in the back of my head. I would say, yeah, I have a very good, lively, strong relationship to music, because I can listen to something and then I can replay it in this, what I used to call my musical center of the brain. And if I was replaying, I could replay an orchestra with every single instrument popping into its place
Wow.
on time. And the feeling for rhythm inside my head, and I always had the feeling, okay, somebody who is composing, he must have this internal access to music. But when I tried to play something, there was always this tenth of a second delay between the music in the head and the command ending up at the hands to play the guitar or to play the drums or whatever. So I was always tenth of a second behind and couldn't keep to the rhythm.
Huh.
To the point, for a while, I thought, okay, this is like it is. So it seems to be the healthy natural setup. To the point where I came to some step of self-healing, and suddenly the music fell down, and suddenly the music was in my heart, and I could listen to music in my heart, because it became part of the spirit again. It was not part of the biochemistry in my brain that is the basis for the mental field processing music, but the music fell back into the place where the spirit is sitting. And then I was so amazed that I can listen to the music in my heart center that I started to dance, and I realized, wow, the feeling for the rhythm is back. My body acts instantly. So whenever something is observable somewhere and it's not in your heart chakra, it's not centered in the heart, something is broken and needs to be fixed. This is how I started to work on myself after I realized, okay, you can actually 10,000 times you can discover a structure within yourself and think it's natural. And at the end, you find out one more healing step, and it turned out, no, that was not natural as well. We don't have a voice here. We have a voice in our forehead because some black magic nasty entity introduced written language to us. That we stare at symbols, and by digesting the sound of the symbol with our eyes, we get a voice that forms exactly in the part of the brain where the eye nerve enters. This is what happens when somebody is teaching you to read. It's the voice of the ego because it's mental field based, it's not heart based. If your voice is not in your chest, it's messed up. Then you're identified with the part of your ego structure. And you've got shitloads of Eastern traditions that give you directions by meditation to make this voice in your head get quiet.
Interesting.
And it takes, or it used to take, years of practice. Now by now it's much easier because the demiurge left, and most of his major entities are degenerating, dying, going away. The entire realm of archons actually lost the core of their biosphere. It's like you have Gaia and you have lions and dolphins and whatever, like planetary consciousness and all the different species. You have the other, the demiurge spirit, Satan, that is a dead planet, with his biosphere. And the major archons that he brought here were the snakes, known by the Adam and Eve story, mostly the spiders, which are the gods or the Freemasons.
The spiders
Quite unknown archon, highly intelligent spiders. The snakes sit on the 7th chakra and on the 1st chakra. This is how they meddle into the human, grabbing the end of the far out points of our light body. The spiders go into the sexual chakra, 2nd chakra, and 6th chakra, mainly by circumcision and sexual traumatization. Demons always enter our system sitting on top of a trauma, mimicking healing, by this getting access to our bioenergetic body. And the third one is rather unknown unless you like Pirates of the Caribbean. It's this octopus demon that goes onto the 3rd chakra mainly. These used to be the 3 archons that were always in place when humans managed to traumatize each other to an extent that they could basically place themselves in our bioenergetics, leading us to a full identification with them. And this is hard tobacco for some people. If you're Jewish or Muslim, if you're circumcised as a man, you've got a spider demon sitting on your sexual chakra in complete control of your sexuality. You will believe that you're one of the most potent and best lovers of the world, because if you fuck very long. You can control your orgasm, and you can do it as often as you want. You will be proud of yourself. This is the deal. The control of your sexuality is in the hands of a demon, of an archon. And if you have the women complaining about your behavior, that you're not really a partner, but more a lover than a husband, this is the price that comes with a demonic possession. And if you want to cure yourself from that, first deal with the act of traumatization. Make your peace with your parents that did that to you. First step. Second step, realize that there's something inside of you that is not you. And step back from the contract. Come to the point where you are full from the bottom of your heart able to say, I will rather be impotent again than to ever again have demonized sexuality in my consciousness. If you come to this point, this is the healing affirmation. To say no to that contract. As long as you're identified with the good lover you think you are, it's impossible to get rid of the thing. Yeah. This is how you can deal with these entities. Now, the beauties seem to be depleted to an extent that I can't remember in the last year to have come across one that had any significant power over human. So the core, the first archon, the most powerful one, this Kundalini snake and Tumu snake that were sitting on the very first trauma of expulsion from paradise, blocking our access to Gaia, blocking our access to the divine, to source. It doesn't play a major role anymore. And this was basically this identification point. It came hand in hand. The voice in the forehead was used by this snake to form the ego. And when the snake is depleted, when the snake is losing its brightness, intelligence, life force, whatever, then the voice in your forehead goes stupid as well. I remember this process with myself that I did most of my thinking in the forehead. The entire science was done in the forehead. And at the same time, I was fighting this position, trying to pull my voice, my internal voice, into the heart as often as possible. But it always was a struggle. And after I got rid of my snake, suddenly the voice in my forehead was still there, but he completely lost intelligence. He was talking shit like a 5-year-old on LSD, just combining stupid words in rows that didn't make any sense because the intelligence of the entity was gone. This is kind of how I had to realize how much influence the main archon, the snake archon, gets on a human, as long as you're identified with the voice he controls. This was the state we were in, so it's not a miracle that we fell for all these black magic traps like blood and fire sacrifice, because the moment we were identified with this voice here, we had the full deception of the archon in our system, being identified with the archon. And these are the things that now are so much easier to fix. I remember I was among the first people taking the fight with a snake to get rid of it. I haven't heard, before I did it, I haven't heard about anyone else that decided to get rid of his Kundalini snake. There's the story with the 100 monkeys again coming into place. I met many people who did it after me, and the more people did it, reconquering this space, the easier it got. So it should be really easy now to reconquer your true voice inside of you now. to move your internal perception of language back to your heart chakra, because there's nothing left that really has the power to hold it in your forehead, except of the habit of reading. This is something that sadly is still there as part of our culture. I can't avoid reading as well. Maybe it helps to be conscious about what reading actually does with you. That it's possible to read without the effect now. But still, I take things as information when I read. I'm conscious that it's mental only. And then I still can pull information into my heart, process it emotionally.
Uh-huh. Wow. That's interesting. So you're saying too that trauma actually creates what you could call like a portal for demons.
This is how it works. What you need to understand as a biophysical background, a demon is actually a natural part of ourself at first place. If I'm hit by a car and the moment of having this accident is extremely painful, my system protects itself by taking the part that is hurt most, ejecting this part from the heart chakra, putting him into an external closed loop. So I form a subdivision of myself. Normally it's like, I visualize it always like a bunch of rubber bands of different colors. And they all go through the torus, through the finger, hundreds of rubber bands. And one of these rubber bands is hit with pain that is too strong to get along with it. It's just pulled out of the heart chakra. And then the rubber band is somewhere in your external area.
Okay.
And your core consciousness is not bothered by the pain because the pain is out here. And this is basically first a trauma. Now, this trauma will try to be reintegrated. So it starts to develop a consciousness of its own, starting to tease and boss you around to create situations that are similar to the accident that created it. So this is subconscious, this is conscious, this is subconscious, and the subconsciousness is triggering you, taking control of your life in a subconscious way to bring you to the point where you recreate, where you restate the traumatizing event. And when the emotional setup is identical, but you're grown up now and you can stand the pain, boof, it jumps back in. This is the natural, and it also can go with a disease, like a strong trauma that is out there might create a cancer before it jumps back in. Because it needs to accumulate life force to get onto the same energetic level as the core being. So it's taking away part of the cells, also creating a sub-entity that then is the cancer. And by getting ill with the cancer, the topic is coming back to life. For example, if a woman is getting pregnant, but she's got this stupid mental idea of making career, and she's having an abortion. It's a trauma. She doesn't feel the pain she's causing to herself and to the baby. It's creating a trauma. It takes 17 years, and then she gets breast cancer, which is the healing phase of the trauma because this pain wants to be reintegrated. And if the breasts are painful, she might remember that she was actually meant to breastfeed a baby, bringing her back to the issue and to the awareness of the traumatizing event. And if she deals with her psychology properly, the breast cancer is going to disappear just on its own. If she's refusing to deal with the emotional bit, the breast cancer will kill her. This is how it works in nature. And the problem with the archontic and demonic world is that they use the mechanism to simulate being the trauma. So if I suffer circumcision, my core system is waiting for this split part of is waiting for my sexuality to reconnect at a certain point, and I'm open to connect with external entities. And then the archon comes, is simulating to be sexuality. And then he connects on the spot of the trauma while the real trauma is still outside. And then he creates a codependency by making a deal. He is making me believe that finally I am a good lover by controlling my sexuality. So I will never ever let him go energetically. You know, I'm in love with my abilities at that point. And I would never ever let him go. And I completely block the real healing because of the trauma doesn't find the slot to reconnect anymore because it's occupied by a demon. This is kind of the bioenergetics that function in these interactions.
Oh, that's fascinating. Makes
And
sense.
spiders are still around. Snakes, I wouldn't invest energy at the moment to deal with the snake topic, except of fixing the thing with the voice, but they should work quite easily now. But the spiders are still in a quite powerful position because humans stick to them through this sexual topic. It's a very important quality we have or don't have to be a good or a bad lover. And once these things manage to get access to our system, the entire self-confidence is resting on a demonic deal. This is why they are so stubborn and so still in the position and in the place to manipulate humanity. And it's interesting how aggressive these people get. If I would talk this conversation with a Jewish man, he would be screaming at me by now. Incomplete, wow. You know, it's for Jewish people, it's the deal you make with the God. It's Brit Milah. And telling them that actually you just made a deal with a demon and your entire sexuality is fake, just there to feed the demon and make him stronger and stronger. It's pretty painful.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, but it's okay. You can go through these topics.
Mm-hmm.
Other people did it, and I've seen people doing their homeworks with ease, and it's so beautiful to see healing. It's so beautiful to see healing happen. And it's rare to see a true and honest wish for self-healing. This is something that is still rare. I see shitloads of people who want to be healed by somebody else. But people who are willing to go through self-healing and do their homework and face the things that need to be faced, it's 1 in 1,000 maybe at the moment. because people never came across this point of making this decision. I mean, it's so easy, all the offer people where everyone is healing the other one. And nobody needs to go through anything because, it's the healer who is healing you. It's a very tempting offer, but it never works because it's all demonic.
And it's only temporary as well, right?
Yeah, it's temporary. It seems to work for the moment. But then it's coming back after a while and you have to go. And it's beautiful for both sides because the healer is not losing his customer and he's not losing income because of people who continuously come back. Yeah, but it's not about healing. Excuse me. Healing is something completely different. Healing is looking into your own eyes to realize what was wrong with you. Deciding that you fix that now at any cost because it's wrong. And it has no coziness of these drama interactions that you see with the interaction between a healer and his customer. This is all ego.
It is. That's so true. That's
Yeah,
so
the healer is getting an ego kick, and the patient is getting a victim kick. All this beautiful attention he gets because he's so suffering. Wow, it makes me puke. Because it's fake, it's demonic, it's drama triangle interaction. It's a demonic trap to make us dance around in these three roles of victim, perpetrator, and savior.
Savior.
And the savior is it's the ugliest role of all because he's blocking everything from real healing. The savior is the worst one. And I can say this because I've been in this role for quite a few years of my life. And it feels so great to be in there. You're the one who understood it all. You're the one who can take over all the pain of all his patients because, I've been through so much and I'll take your pain as well. The only thing I did was stealing their spiritual growth. That's it. Stealing their energy and their spiritual growth. Full stop. It's not more. This is the healer.
We have to heal ourselves. That's why no one else can heal for us. We have to do it ourselves.
Yes, of course. How else? It's so, if once you see the system, it's so logical. How can somebody else fix you? Because it's at the end of the day, you've got material plane, you've got the mental plane, you've got the spiritual plane. And if you want to fix a problem, you have to fix it on the highest plane. And then healing cascades down to lower. So you can't heal on the biological plane. This is what school medicine does day in, day out. Fixing symptoms to make the next even more painful disease reappear because nothing has been healed. And you can't heal on the mental plane because understanding alone also doesn't change anything in the spiritual realm. But if the spirit develops, the manifestation of the reality changes. And this is where it all comes from. And this is why the healing is only in the spiritual realm. And the spiritual realm can only be reached by the spirit who is living there. And this is you.
The real you, not the body.
You're not the body. You're not the mind. And you're not your emotion too. Everything you can observe is not you. Because if it would be you wouldn't be able to observe it. You cannot observe your thoughts. You can observe your emotions. You can observe your body. So it's not you. But the observer, it's a completely different thing. This is you. The entity that observes everything. And this can reaffirm itself. All I need to do is understand with my mind that I can observe, understand how stupid the things I used to do are, and decide to do different.
Yeah. Hmm.
And if this decision is taken in the heart, the change is happening immediately. It's easy. It's easy. If you've done it 1 or 2 times and you get used to the pattern of self-healing, it's absolutely easy. Also, very important, the experience that before you go healing, emotions are on a scale from 0 to infinite. And you think before you approach a trauma that this trauma, the pain is so intense that it will rip you to bits and pieces because the pain is infinite. When you go through healing, the pain or the emotion is always on a scale between 0 and 10. And beyond 10, nothing happens anymore. You go to 10 and that's it. And nothing rips you apart and puts you into bits and pieces because 10 is 10 and that's it. We have the ability to feel. What a gift. And it's so easy if you look at it this way, you have all these people, oh, my trauma, and when I'm going to go into this, it's going to rip me apart. I'm so suffering. Ego. Getting stuck on the mental plane of it, because and then the mental imagination, the scale is going off to unlimited pains. It's only the imagination that goes there. The real thing is simple, doable. Just have to decide in the core of your being that you want to go there for your own sake, for your self-healing. This needs self-love, and that's it.
So, if we were going to wind this up with advice or ideas that would help people to help themselves, what would you suggest?
It's too individual to suggest anything. I've been going through my stuff. Everybody else is a completely different aspect of the divine that wants to express himself
But the idea
with
is to get to know
completely
yourself.
different healing steps develop. The basic idea is to understand that outside is outside and outside is just a reflection of inside. And that you if you want to really change things, the only thing you can change is yourself. And yourself, to change yourself, you need to know yourself. And this you can do by self-observation.
That's
These
what
are kind of the basics that are similar for every single human. Self-observation, patience, self-love, willingness to forgive yourself, not in a way of not looking what's wrong. The opposite is the case. You need to fully understand how stupid you've been to be able to forgive yourself what you've done. And then it's just okay, then you can redecide not to do it anymore. And many things happen out of stupidity. Many things even happen out of love. A little child that sees his parents suffering, he will take the pain out of love. And then he runs around with this pain all his life, carrying a trauma that he stole from his parents, blocking their development, blocking his own development. Shit happens. And then it's like, okay, I was a child. I acted out of love. I did a mistake out of the wish to help my parents. But it was wrong to do so. It's even more wrong to stick to it now. I know it's wrong. So I let go from that pain. And then the pain can go back to the place where it belongs to. And if it's still time, the parents can deal with it and grow. This is kind of how things work, and to be able to take steps, you have to get away from this judging role about yourself. It's just understanding, like you would deal with a child that is just there to understand and learn how to deal with the world, and does stupid things. You wouldn't beat the child. You would scream at it. You would understand and explain and give him the better solution to things. And this is what you do with yourself. If you realize, okay, there's something that is not meant to be like this. Okay, let's go to extremes. When I was 17, I tried to make love with a girl. I was completely impotent. Nothing moved. I couldn't feel myself at all. Bad situation. Social judgments ahead, not able to found a family at any point of my life. Complete loss of self-confidence. And then suddenly, boom, it's there. Suddenly, so easy Latin is, and you're the best fucker of the world suddenly. Yeah, if it's a demonic deal you made at that point, it's, in a way, it's shame on you, but you didn't know. You didn't know better then. You were just in dire straits waiting for your body to function. And finally it functions. It's my history. I could forgive myself doing that mistake because I knew out of that perspective, I didn't have any chance to do anything else at that point. But when I understood what I did, now I can decide different. And it needs these types of decisions to heal, to realize what went wrong, to give yourself the full understanding why things got wrong, still to understand how stupid it was to get things on that path in that way, to find a better solution and go for it. And a beautiful helper are relationships. I can see them everywhere. The one that is very emotional, mostly the women, the black-haired women maybe, and the men who don't have any emotions, and especially don't have any aggression within them. And she's teasing him day in, day out, in the ugliest way, and he's not exploding. And he hates her because she's so disrespectful towards him, and she hates him because he's not real. And if you look at it from outside, they're just triggering each other. She's working on her childhood traumas and he's working on his childhood traumas. And if he takes care of his aggression and goes to the garden and starts to kick his feet into the soil as powerful and deep and start to scream and shout until the anger gets released, he will be fine with his blockage. And if she might go back in the memory of her childhood to remember how she was abused and start to spend some tears on what happened, bringing up the true emotion that was stored in trauma, she will not be forced to reproduce all the ugliness of her parents' life in her own life. And here we go. The only thing I see out there is people blaming each other because they are used to stare at the projection of their own shit, instead of looking into themselves to see the real thing that is there. because inside yourself you can solve it. When you demand from your partner to change, to make things more peaceful, nothing will happen because he stares at you and demands you to change. And then you stand there and you keep on struggling. These are the things that can initiate huge steps. Just look, scan your own life for conflict and unhappiness. And just assume that every single piece and bit of unhappiness and conflict and discomfort is reflecting on a painful scar in your being that wants to be healed. And solve the issue, full stop, easy. This is self-responsibility. Instead of blaming others, because blaming others never led to anything except of more struggle and more scars and more trauma.
Mm-hmm. So we all have a lot of work to do on ourselves and figuring out why we feel the way we feel and why we're triggered when we're triggered. And
yeah, triggering is beautiful. I love triggering. It's such a
you say, bless you for that trigger.
So sometimes when you have people who know you and you get used to the mechanisms, it's so much fun to consciously trigger. Like
I think I know somebody like
my
that.
my flatmate has unsolved issues, and he quite often breaks things in the kitchen. And I exactly know where this shit comes from, and the correct trigger is just to say, why do you always break everything? We play around with this always everything thing, and you can apply it on so many things, and it just reflects on a childhood pattern of guilt transfer, where the habit of breaking things comes from. Because when you're in this guilt loop and there's no event that makes you guilty, you create the event and break something. Yeah, so I always directly go back to the initial mechanism of creating the problem and trigger him on that point. And then I can see him getting angry with me, which is completely nonsense, because A, he broke my cup, and B, it's his problem, not mine. Why should he be angry with me? But he knows that I'm consciously triggering. So he pull back and just take it as a reminder to get his shit sorted. This is how it's, you can make it with humor as well. It doesn't need the heaviness of that our talk now sometimes had in between.
Yeah, if you can bring humor into any intense situation, it's always a blessing to do that. Because
it's
look at yourself.
Yeah, but in a way, the humor is the thing to be harvested, because this is something. The only thing I think Freud got right is that if something subconscious becomes conscious, it comes with a laugh. This is Freud. The healing practitioners have another saying. They say, may the problem be as difficult as it wants to, the solution is always funny.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
And this is for me, if I go into healing processes, accompany people in their healing processes, normally it goes like spotting the trauma, diving into it. Sometimes they need a little help just to be announced. It needs to go deeper. So I say deeper, and then they go into a deeper level of trauma relief. And when you're deep enough, suddenly the crying and screaming and all the pain that wants to be expressed turns into laughter at the end. And this is the confirmation that actually the spiritual process has taken place. If it comes to that point of laughter, really relieved laughter. And normally it comes from the crying to the laughing in a very There's no cut in between.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Transition
Which,
nicely.
yeah, it's a transition, and this is the quality of true emotion. That emotions can be mixed in any. You can be laughing and be angry at the same time. You can mix all emotions. If they come together, it's an emotion in your true being. If they come separate, it's mental emotion, and it's just your ego playing shit with you.
Oh, wow.
Just to know where you stand. It's a very good marker kind of to understand mechanics. If emotions come mixed, then it's real, and only then it's real.
Ah, that makes sense. I like that. I can see that.
Mm. You can also say if emotion is a field equation, then it's real. If it's biochemistry, then it's ego. I can, for example, if I'm angry, I can feel the cramps in my stomach and I realize, oh, I'm angry. This is not real. This is not consciousness. This is knowledge about subconsciousness that is giving you just a marker in your body that you can read. If emotion is real, it's not happening in your body, it's happening in your aura, and you can feel the signature flowing as part of your light body. This is true emotion. But most of the people don't have the correct pattern recognition of their spiritual parts, so they're not aware of their spirit. They're only aware of the body.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's impossible to tell one from the other. But these are things you get there once you're on the way. It develops, and it's just a space to be reconquered. And the more trauma I get, the more toxins are expelled from the body. And this also always goes hand in hand. You need to biochemically cleanse your body, because this is our temple. Our body is our temple. And if the temple is messy, there's no ceremony happening in it.
You can't, yeah.
So cleaning the body by healthy food and detoxing and self-love in your habits, not taking drugs, not drinking alcohol, not overworking yourself, not spending all your day in the outer world. Go to the internal at least once a day for an hour to check what's happening inside of you. This is all treating your system with love. And like this, you clear your temple, create the space for healing.
Yeah, it's funny how we don't take the time for ourselves to do stuff like that because we think we have to, adhere to some schedule or something like that.
Yeah, life is so stupid. Like controlled by control grid, controlled by money grid. It's all a mechanization to make biorobots function with each other. You can straight away look at it. It's like a mechanic machine. The hierarchy are the gears, direct contact, control, making one thing move the other. The money is more with the rubber bands, the loose connection between things, and altogether forms a perfect machine that controls more and more and more and more and more aspects of our life. This is a society designed for biorobots. And above all, the big word, freedom.
Yeah.
How stupid can you get? I mean,
it's all an illusion. We're not free. You all want to be free.
Started with whom? Freedom started with the Freemasons. Oh,
that is a deep desire within in everyone's soul is freedom, and yet we don't have it.
If it would be a film, I really would go like, what the heck? What drug did the script writer take before writing this story? You can't take this serious. It's so it doesn't work. We're living in a world that is completely unreal.
Yes, everything's just the opposite that you think it is. for starters. Do a 180 on
Yeah,
everything
also a
and you'll
good
be
one.
okay. Or you might be able to
If something appears to be unlogical, just turn it upside down and try to re-understand it. You go to a university because you think that this is where you learn about what you need to know. No, universities are there to make sure that nobody learns what needs to be learned.
it seemed like
You go to
everything
a
I learned I had to unlearn and relearn in a different way.
Yes, exactly. If you go to church because you want to connect to source, be sure that the church is exactly the place that stops you from connecting to source by misguiding you as badly as possible. Yeah, if you think that grabbing money and accumulating money makes you rich, it's the opposite. Yeah. It's just strengthening the scarcity field in your own system. If you
Well,
let go of money, if you let it flow, if you give it away as presents, universe is going to take revenge by tripling the amount of flow of goods and wealth and beauty and 100%. It's all the opposite.
yeah, what do we take with us when we leave this plane of existence? Our consciousness and awareness is
Experience.
the only thing we can take with us, isn't it?
Experience. Yeah.
Yeah, the experience, whatever we've gathered along the way through self-observation, which that's really a good one, because that's I've been doing a lot of that myself over the last few years of, why do I think this way, or where's that come from, that kind of thing. And then
Yeah.
like you said, forgiving yourself too about things that didn't go the way you had hoped they would, or what have you. But anyway, I guess we better wind this up. We've been going quite a while here, but I really want to.
Yeah. Yeah. At least we end now on the laughing part of.
Yes, I really appreciate your time, and your perspective on things is awesome. And I hope the audience will assure. I noticed a few times we had, it said your bandwidth was low, so I hope the sound's okay.
Yeah.
But
I just realized there's delay in
yeah.
between sound and picture. But
Well, I'll say goodbye to the audience, and I'll turn off the recording, and we can chat for a minute.